And we are recording. All right. So I'm going to work our way through some of the obvious things that you need to know. The midterm is on chapters 1 through 7. What I try to do as much as possible is I try to focus in on things that it's about being able to apply the information. It's not just about regurgitation, okay? So it's not enough to just know what the 4 Ps are. It's about what do they mean? You know, how do you use them? If you are thinking about different categories and different channels for your marketing plan for a particular client, it's not just about knowing what the categories are. It's about knowing, okay, well, these are channels that would work for the client. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. So most of your midterm is going to be in the format of short answer and essay, less multiple choice, less true false, less matching, okay? That being said, I am going to go through a couple things, and then I'm gonna break you up into groups, and you are going to each dive into the chapters, and then we're gonna have a conversation based on that. So a lot of what comes out of that conversation is going to be on your midterm, okay? So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. So a couple things that I want to touch on before we do that. One, have a decent understanding of the definition of marketing. What we talked about at the beginning of the course and what we've reemphasized throughout the course is this idea of anything that gets people in the door, okay? And marketing, call it the big umbrella, and underneath it is all these different things that you can do from, and I'm going to go through them, radio, TV ads, web pages, web banners, pop-ups, native advertising, podcast marketing, word of mouth, social media marketing, using tastemakers and influencers, loyalty programs, better customer service, signage and visuals, direct mail, flyers, brochures, business cards, point of sale, kiosks and screens, billboards and posters, pay-per-click advertising, PPC, email and text marketing, web deals, celebrity endorsements, promotions, guerrilla marketing, and basically that's the bulk of it, okay? Now, we haven't focused on all of that yet, okay? So we're focused on chapters 1 through 7, and that's going to be the bulk of what the midterm's about. This course is cumulative, so we keep building and building and building off of the week before. You need to understand the 4 Ps, as I referenced before. You need to know what they stand for and what they mean, okay? That's not too hard to find. It's in your book. It's core. It's foundational. Understanding of categories and channels. If one of you says on your midterm that, you know, I ask about channels and you give me 4 TV channels or 5 TV channels, then you miss the point. There's all these channels out there that you can use. And I think we've been talking about it enough that I think most of you have a good understanding of it. Difference between B2B and B2C, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's business to business and business to consumer. Let me let Ashmir in. Ashmir, we just got started, but I'm recording it so you can go back and catch what you might have missed. CPM, how does it work and how to do the math, okay? Because I can tell you right now, no cloak and mirrors or whatever, smoke and mirrors rather. You are gonna have a question about CPM and how to calculate it, okay? So I'm gonna give you the numbers that you need in terms of impressions. I'm gonna give you the cost, and you're gonna figure out what the CPM is for a couple of different channels, okay? So keep that in mind. Social media. We've just spent a lot of time on social media. So you should have some understanding about what different platforms are good for, who they reach, how you can utilize them from a marketing perspective. You just did a project on it. So you should have the ability to answer that pretty well. And then the 7th thing that I have on my list before we break up into groups, tools for personal branding. Okay, so there's going to be a question on there that says, hey, Sebastian. It's not going to say Sebastian for everybody, but it's going to say, hey, Sebastian, what are some things that you can do to improve your personal brand? And you'll talk about it. You'll talk about things like your website. You'll talk about things like social media. You'll talk about things like reputation management, perhaps. You might mention NameCheck as a website or other tools that are out there so that your personal brand can be as good as it possibly can be, okay? I might ask a question about why it might be good to have a personal Facebook account and a professional Facebook account, or the same for Twitter, the same for YouTube, etc. I can tell you a very, very specific example of YouTube, why it's good to have two different accounts or multiple accounts. If I were to show you the screen of my YouTube front page, it's inappropriate. I should not show it to you because I listen to a lot of music mixes, and for some reason, they think it's a good idea to put scantily clad women as the thumbnail for all of these mixes. Y'all get what I'm saying? Y'all seen this before? And that's inappropriate. I'm not going to show you my YouTube because it's inappropriate. But it's perfectly, harmless. It's not bad. It's just music. So that would be a good reason why it's good to have a professional account that has none of that, and that I could show to y'all. And maybe that's the Prof. Duchamp versus the Damien Duchamp accounts. And plus it's good to have a little bit of privacy. There's some things that you want to post that only your friends and family can see. And then there's things that you want business clients to see and colleagues and other professionals in your industry. So you're gonna be asked about that as well. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna break you up into 7 different groups. Very, very clearly, the group number 1, you're gonna focus in on chapter 1. Group number 2, you're gonna focus on chapter 2, etc., all the way up to 7. And what you're gonna do over the next 15 minutes is you're gonna dig into the chapter together, and you're gonna say, these are the biggest things to focus on for this chapter. A minimum of 5 things, okay? So you're gonna, when we come back out of the breakout rooms, you're gonna say, these are the top 5 things that we think are the highlights for the chapter, that are the most important parts. And we'll talk about that very briefly, okay? Timothy's getting back into his seat. Almost ready, he's got his textbook. If you don't have your textbook now, I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to grab it. Thank you, Timothy, for illustrating that need. So if you don't have your textbook nearby, grab it. I'll wait a minute or so, and then I will break you up into groups. All right, for those of you that are away from your seats, I'm about to break you up into groups, and each group is going to focus in on a different chapter. Your group is group number is the chapter that you're going to focus on. And when we come out of it, we're going to go group to group to group to group. You're going to share the top 5 things that are highlights for that chapter. Okay? All right, I'm going to break you up now. Starting now, you have 15 minutes. Hey, George. Okay. Drew, George, Lanús, you're doing breakout rooms. Drew, breakout room. Hey, Drew. Join your breakout room. Hey, Drew, breakout room. There you go. All right, almost everybody's back. I'm going to ask for volunteers from each group to talk about the top 5 things. All right. I think we have almost everybody back. All right, so let's get started. As soon as we get done, you are done for the day, which is always good. So let's start with chapter 1. Who's somebody from chapter 1 that can talk about the top 5 things that you came up with? Then I'll just jump up at once.
So we each.
All right, Nabil, go ahead.
So we each covered like each of us covered one different topic. So I said was social marketing. So I talked about social marketing because I think that like a lot of companies like nowadays in 21st century, like some of them are socially responsible, whereas some are not. And I think when it comes to like marketing, being socially responsible as a brand or a company is really important because like now like a lot of movements such as like LGBTQ or like BLM, they're big movements, and a lot of people like to see that a company is like socially responsible. So I think when a company is like marketing itself, putting itself out there, being socially responsible really helps.
Great, thank you, Nabil. Let's get another one from chapter 1, from group 1.
All right, so I basically talked about the customer relationship management and how that's like a really important part. And I wrote down the definition as something that like we should know. And also too, I think it's important to know like different like real world examples of it. So like, for example, like the Starbucks, like I know they have like a membership where you can get discounts every now and then, or like AAA, they have a discount if you like use them a lot, then they'll do like a free tire or something like that, a free spare tire. So
Yep.
That's basically what I talked about.
Great, thank you, Matthew. Yeah, the big thing to remember with CRM is a system of keeping a relationship with your members, your customers, your guests. It can be as simple as a notepad at the desk at a cafe, you know, name and phone number. So that's the very simple version, and it's a matter of reaching out to them every once in a while and inviting them to a tasting or a special event. On the other side of the spectrum, you have things like Sugar CRM, which is a big company, or Salesforce, which is used by major companies, and that's where you keep track of everything. It's scary how much information they have. So that's a good one. What's another one from chapter 1?
Another thing we did in chapter 1 I looked over was sustainable marketing and the call for more environmental and social responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And that's talking about how some corporations are being pushed by the government to be more conscious of what they're doing, and how some are fighting back against it because it affects their budgeting and other stuff they have to do for their businesses, while others are being forward thinking and they're actually welcoming the challenge and finding ways to work alongside these new changes that are being put upon them. The textbook, for example, used Timberland or Ben and Jerry's, which practice caring capitalism, which is setting themselves apart by being civic minded and responsible.
Right. No, that's good. And the flip side to that is if you're not socially responsible, if you're not, you know, sustainably minded, the public will turn on you. They will not buy your brand. They will not support your brand. And we've seen that happen time and time again, especially in the last few years. That's for sure. So you can't just operate with blinders. That's for sure. Anything else from chapter 1?
Yeah. So I talked about marketing. I talked about how marketing is not only just about selling and advertising. With marketing, your goal is you want to be able to build a relationship with your customers, and you want to be able to establish a relationship with customers. And with marketing, you want to be able to make sure the message that you send is the right message. you wanted to get through to the customers, the right segment. I remember market segment, I believe. Yeah. You wanted to get to the right market segment. So yeah, you want to build an important relationship so you could create customer value and capture it to attract more customers in return.
Yep. That's good. Thank you, Noah. Yeah, so if Greg's the chief marketing officer, he wants to use the right channels with the right message to get to the right target audience. Because if you don't, you're just wasting your money. You're just throwing money out the window. You know, it's unfortunately, you see a lot of it. You see ads that just are tone deaf or they just don't make sense. You know, it's the companies that spend $5 million for 30 seconds and nobody remembers their brand. And they didn't really need to do a Super Bowl ad. They really just need to do something more targeted. So 100%. Good job. Anything else from chapter 1? Yes, Sebastian.
The last guy in our group who was doing the 5th one, he left. He went to go to work.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think we got enough. And again, you're going to get this. You're going to see it. You'll be able to study it. So let's get into chapter 2. Who wants to start with chapter 2?
Got it.
Okay.
So for chapter 2, so the first thing that comes to mind is strategic planning. And from the textbook, the definition is the process of developing and maintaining a strategic fit between the organization's goals and capabilities and its changing marketing opportunities. So strategic planning, obviously, that's a necessity when you're trying to market to the right group. Then also we have the biggest thing in chapter 2 is the 4 Ps, the marketing mix. And I have that right here. Hold on.
Can I pause for a second? Is anybody else having difficulty hearing? Grace is having some issue hearing. Or is everybody loud and clear and okay?
I'm okay.
Can hear.
Okay. Grace, it might be on your end. If you want to log out and log back in or do something to reset the connection. Oh, you too, Laura, huh? We'll see if you can make some adjustments because I don't know if we have any other issues. Okay. All right, well, everybody just try to talk more into the microphone. Maybe we can figure that out. Maybe it's a Zoom issue. I had some Zoom issues earlier, so.
Okay.
All right, you want to continue with that?
Yeah, sure. So the 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And then like Noah said before about the market segment, they have that, and the market segment consists of consumers who respond in a similar way to a given set of marketing efforts.
Okay. Good list. I added also positioning and differentiation, knowing what that means and how that works. Let's see, I'm going to let Grace back in. But yeah, you covered pretty much everything.
Okay. That. I was in the
Good,
group
Kyla. Sorry.
with market segmentation and market targeting also, just addressing those things.
Great. And again, they all work together. You can't have one without the other and go back to strategic planning. If you don't plan, everything's kind of on its own island. Everything works together so you can have a good approach to what you're trying to accomplish. Good. All right, let's move ahead to chapter 3. I want to keep this moving along. Who's got something from chapter 3?
I will start. It's Grace, by the way,
Grace.
so my name might not be up. So we, in chapter 3, it talked about environmental forces that affect companies' ability to service customers. Mm-hmm. It talks about a lot about micro environments and macro environments, and then marketing intermediaries, which helps companies promote, sell, and distribute products to final buyers.
Okay, good. Anybody else from chapter 3?
And then it talks a lot about demographics and like the economic environment. And then the natural and technological environments as well.
Right. You had an assignment based on this before, so this should be ringing some bells. Make sure you pay attention to demography and how that works, because again, it's about understanding your target audience and how you reach them. And especially, I mean, all you have to do is think of where we are right now as a society. The economy is what it is. It's difficult. You know, you have, on one side, you have people that are 100% struggling, trying to get by. You have businesses closing left and right. And on the other hand, you have some people that are doing well. Some companies that are just needed more than before within the COVID era. Zoom is doing really, really well. Their stock is up crazy amounts. You know, so environmental forces, economic forces, you have to be aware of the different environments. Right now, our political environment is a little nutty. So these all have impacts on your marketing decisions. You know, otherwise, if you don't pay attention to that, you put something out there from a marketing perspective, and you could offend pretty much the entire country, one way or another. So that's really important. Anything else that stood out from chapter 3?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you can go.
The
Go
next
ahead, George.
talks about the political, social, and the cultural environments. And chapter 3 ends with responding to the marketing environment.
Okay.
A little simple, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, George. Was there something else?
Grace want to say something? I don't know.
Was that you, Grace?
No, that was just what I was just gonna say.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I think we're good with chapter 3. Let's move on to chapter 4. Somebody from chapter 4, what do we want to focus on?
So I'll go. I have it all written down. So the first one was like the use of CRMs and like internal databases to collect info on your clients. The second one was to have a research plan, like collecting data and interpreting it and analyzing it. The third one was tracking competitors and getting access to their clients to help you with your clients. The fourth one is online marketing research, having surveys, consumer tracking, and focus groups. And the fifth one is the importance of ethics with like CRM and stuff, like not violating your consumer policy when getting information.
That's great. Great list, Annette. Does anybody know what the motto is for Google? Does anybody remember that?
Wasn't it like "Don't be evil"?
Yeah, basically that, Timothy. So it's funny when you talk about ethics, Annette, some would argue that Google isn't always the most ethical when it comes to the use of their data. Certainly Facebook has had a lot of trouble in that area with Cambridge Analytica and others. How many of you saw the social media documentary on Netflix recently? Talked about it. Tia, Aaron, a few others. I'm about halfway through. I need to finish it, but it's a little scary. The reality is companies, if they want to, they can find out a ton of information about their audiences. And we just hope that they use it for good rather than evil, not to prey upon people for because of their needs or, you know, selling them something that they don't really need. But that's part of marketing as well. So it's a very scary proposition, let's say. But that's a very good list. Thank you, Annette. Anything else about chapter 4 from your group? No?
Yeah, I just want to develop a little bit on a couple of things. So with the marketing research and data collection, there's a process. So you collect the information, you analyze it and then interpret. Oh, sorry. You collect and analyze the data, and then you interpret and report the findings. So sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm organizing a couple of stuff or a couple of things.
All right, Dominic.
So yeah, just like I thought the process itself was like also important. Just understanding the fundamentals of how to collect research, how to analyze it, and how you can utilize that information for your marketing. Also with competitive research, researching your competitors, researching their clientele. seeing if you can get a glance at their like marketing strategies just through, you know, analyzing the patterns and whatnot. And I guess the only other thing was the internal data. In that that's what you use CRMs for, to organize your data, all your internal data, and to make all of the information readily available and accessible.
Yeah. Well, there is a little bit different. So there's different pockets of data. There's data that you collect and keep about your customers, and there's also data that you keep that might be a little bit separate from that. But yeah, the big thing with data, and this is the big thing that you all need to remember, and if you like data, if you like anything about data, go full force into this, because you will be employed for the rest of your life in a good way, because every company needs people that understand data, that can parcel it out, that can figure out where the trends are. The problem, Dominic, is that a lot of companies don't listen to the data. You know, they have access to all this information, and then they do a complete left turn or a right turn, and it doesn't make any sense. It's like, if the data is telling you that you need to stop selling Aunt Jemima syrup with this lady on it, listen to the data, because the data is there for a reason. If your data says that you have an opportunity with this target audience, for instance, there's companies, and I'm just throwing this out there, but there's companies that have intentionally disregarded an audience. I think it was, maybe it wasn't Timbaland, it was another company way back when, but their CEO said, you know, we're not really thrilled that all these rap stars love our clothes. Are you dumb? You know, there's all these target audiences that they could work with, that there's some opportunity with, and the data tells them, and then they do something completely different. So to sum it all up, listen to the data, and you have to have the right people in place to be able to interpret the data for you. So Dominic, I appreciate you going a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, chapter 5. What are we focusing on, chapter 5?
So chapter 5, one of the topics in there, we have the characteristics that affect consumer behavior. And there are a few different like subsections that go into that one, like personal factors, psychological factors, and social factors. And just diving into how each of these little sections actually matters in the way that a consumer goes about buying a specific product, or using a certain kind of platform.
It's amazing when you really drill down and figure out why people make the decisions that they make. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and sometimes it makes total sense. So consumer buyer behavior is a big one. Anything else from chapter 5?
I wrote down, like, there was like a chart that said like, I think it was like the model of consumer behavior. So I put down that chart. I feel like that would be important to like look at. I don't think, yeah. And yes, there's a few things, but that's what I wrote.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. Anything else from chapter 5? The other things I have is the idea of an opinion leader, and how they play into things from a marketing perspective. And I think there's a story in there about mommy bloggers in that chapter. Go ahead, Jordan, you had something else?
Yeah, a few more things are just like also like the actual types of buyer decision behavior and the buyer decision process for new products, like the actual process that goes into the consumer's, like, I guess, like process of buying a new product that they see.
Right. Yeah, and it's a fun conversation when you get into whether or not something is a need or something is a want. And, you know, if I were to poll all of you and I asked you, you know, do you need the new iPhone? Some of you would say, I need the new iPhone. but do you just want it? And there's that clash between what we perceive to be a need and what we perceive to be a want. You know, my wife's phone she has a 6S. That's an old iPhone by many standards. But you know what? Still works. Still keeps a charge. You know, so I mean, literally, I have a brand new phone in the box that's holding up this screen. I've never looked at it. It's still in the Amazon box. But I know that when I'm done with the current phone that I have, I'll have that waiting for me. I just bought it for whatever reason. So it's interesting when you get into the psychological aspect of marketing, for sure. Anything else with chapter 5? All right, moving on. Chapter 6. What do we got?
So the first thing we had is what is a buying unit / the nature of a buying unit. So a buying unit is like when a company needs to purchase something, there's multiple parties involved in that. And it's either the person who needs the product, the person in charge who decides if the product is worth it, the person who researches the product, whoever pays for it. So it's pretty much just it's the layout of all the different parties involved in the actual purchase of a new product for a company.
Okay, good. What else from chapter 6? Chapter 6.
I can keep going if you want. We have.
Keep going.
Okay. So the next thing we had is major types of buying situations. And there are 3 types of major buying situations. One of them is like a normal rebuy, the exact same order that a company is repeating with a company. Mm-hmm. The other one is a modified rebuy, I believe, where they change something, but it's still with the same company. And then the last one is I forget the exact name, but it's a totally fresh buy. You're in the market. It's the first time you're buying this product from any company. And each of those have different benefits and disadvantages for companies that are either existing suppliers or companies looking to be new suppliers. So it's like there's a lot of opportunity for new companies as well as things old company needs to work on.
Right.
The next thing we had was business buyer decision process. And this is really similar to the actual buying unit, but it's more about who has how much of the say. And it could be anything from like a low-level executive who has knowledge in a plane would have more say in buying a corporate jet than the person who pays for it. So it's mostly about whoever has the most influence, and this is probably the most unpredictable out of anything, the buying unit. And then the next thing we have is major influences on business buyers. So this is like all the outside forces that can influence the buying unit for people who buy for business. I definitely didn't do enough reading on this one to go super in depth with it at this moment in time, but it's pretty much like marketing strategies for other businesses and how they can really like penetrate a buying unit and, sway their opinions. And the last one is engaging business buyers with social media and e-procurement. And now more than ever, e-procurement and buying online is massive, even for business to business. So this is mostly about how companies looking to sell to businesses or supply to businesses can have the easiest time of buying online from those same people. And it's also about how companies looking to buy online can easily access suppliers. And there's different tiers. Like some companies make it so that if you want to pay, you go to their site and you bid, or they can bid for your product. So it's kind of a 2-tiered system. Mm-hmm. And those are 5. So
yeah, that's a good summary. Thank you, Josh. Now, one thing that I'll take it a step further, just for you all to wrap your heads around. If Gabriella wants to buy something and she has the money in her account, she's going to buy it. She has that opportunity. If you are working in a company and you think that it would be a good purchase for the company, you might have to jump through some hoops in order to get that to happen. You might have to propose that to a whole other division so that you can get the green light to make that purchase. And so it's a very different structure, and it's a very different decision-making process. And specific to what Josh was saying right at the end, the way that those decisions are made for a business has changed significantly. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. Back in the day, Jordan and Caitlin and Sebastian and Matt and Nabil would go to a trade show. They're representatives of different companies, and they're going to the trade show to scope out new equipment for their companies. And that's how they would see it. That's how they would get to experience it and talk to the salespeople. And they bring that information back, they present it to whatever committee they need to, and then the purchase would happen. Maybe it's an RFP, which is a request for proposal, etc. But that was the process. Now, and this is what Josh was really talking about, or what I heard, is that they don't have to go to a trade show anymore. Trade shows are dying left and right because there's so much information online about different products. You can go to a company's website to look at their products and see a 360-degree angle at the product. You can see the texture, you can see testimonials, you can watch videos, you can talk virtually via Zoom and do a demo. It's a completely different world. So that process, and why it's interesting if you look at the two chapters, because the consumer purchasing process versus the B2B process, there's some similarities, but then there's some big differences. Okay, so keep that in mind, because even though Jordan wants to buy it, she might not be able to buy it if it's a company. She might know that it's the best possible choice, but you know what? Aaron, who makes the final decision, says, you know what? I don't like that company, so we're gonna go with this one. And that's why some companies are still in business. I joke with, you know, the units that you'll see at restaurants, the POS system that they swipe into and they take your order and they put all that stuff in there. To me, I'm amazed that companies like Oracle are still in business, because they're old and they're kind of clunky and they're super expensive. And then you have these beautiful Clover units and Square units and all these really nice POS systems that cost a tenth of the price. But guess what? Those old companies, what we call legacy companies, they're still the choice because they go through this process and the decision making is just different. So thank you for bringing us there, Josh. That was helpful. All right, let's get into chapter 7 and wrap it up. Go chapter 7.
So we picked our 5 points. This chapter deals with a lot of market strategy. It goes into like the fine details of it. So we have the market segmentation, target market, market differentiation, and positioning. And I focused in on segmentation because there's a lot of different ways you can segment the market. So firstly, market segmentation deals with separating the market to narrow down your product to sell to different groups of people. And there's several different ways you can do that. You can do it by geography, the demographic for the product you're trying to sell, the age and life cycle, the gender you're trying to sell to, psychographic, behavioral, occasion, benefit, cross-market, intermarket. There's several ways you can do it. And then next up to that would be target market, which would then be deciding what markets are, after you segment it, would be best to sell the product to. And that's where my time went up.
Okay.
I'll pass
Anything else? Anybody else from group 7 that wants to add to that?
I can add on to market targeting, where basically you evaluate the segments, and then when you're selecting the segments, you can go more broadly, where you can have undifferentiated or differentiated marketing, or you can go more narrow with concentrated or micro marketing.
Great, thank you, Gabriella. And I will say, I will point out that there's a lot of duplication of terms between this chapter and chapter 2. If you look, you'll see segmentation, you'll see this, you see that. It's duplicated, it's redundant, but it's just taking a little bit different stab at it. So good. Anything else from chapter 7? And then I'm going to go back because Laura put something in the chat that I missed. Anything else for chapter 7? Or that pretty much covers it?
Well, there's also positioning. That's just how you want your product to be like displayed to the public. Like, how do they perceive it? Like, for example, they used Tide. It was like your everyday clean detergent, good for any loads you're putting in the washer, you know. And then they used Ivory, which is for only like delicate clothing. Is it all about how you position it to their perspective?
No, that's good. Positioning is important, and again, that's repeated again from previous chapters. Good. Laura said it's okay. Josh covered it. But if you look in the chat, you have another comment from Laura regarding chapter 6. All right. Well, we've covered the 7 chapters. Again, this will be available. I'm going to put it in this week's module, which is even open right now. Again, I just want you guys to focus on this. I want you to review this week. I'm going to throw you a little tiny assignment that's going to be just to get you active and to be thinking about things. But for all intents and purposes, use this time wisely, review, go back through the chapters. And again, I'm gonna push you to do your best work, go back to your team projects and fill in some of the gaps that you might have noticed. Okay, that's an important opportunity. So the question in the chat from Ashmir, on Monday at 12:01 a.m., your midterm will open. You will have all week to take it, which means that you can work on assignments that you want to redo if you want. You can jump ahead a little bit if you want in terms of some of the readings, because obviously we're going to go into chapters 8, 9, etc. But all intents and purposes, you're focused on your midterm. You're not taking the midterm during class. You are not going to have class next Wednesday, okay? Don't be so happy. Aaron looks very happy. So instead of having class, you're going to take the quiz, the midterm in your own time when you want. You'll have one attempt and you will have 2 hours to take it, okay? There's going to be about 20 to 25 questions total. So, you know, look at the midterm review, go through it, predict the kinds of questions that you think I'm going to ask. I've mentioned a lot of them. There's going to be no surprises in the midterm. This is the stuff that we've been working on and working towards. And that's pretty much it. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Grace.
So the midterm, is it going to be filmed or like recorded, or is it just going to be like an open assignment where we can like just go on Canvas and open it and answer the questions? Basically like a quiz.
That is exactly it. So I'm one of those professors. I don't get all hung up. I know that you're going to read your textbook while you do it. I know that you're going to surf online. You're going to be watching Netflix while you do it, probably some of you. The reality is that it is very situational. The questions are going to be very situational and they're going to be very personal. So, you know, Gabriella's going to answer questions from her perspective. George is going to answer from his perspective. Dominic's going to do the same thing. So you can use whatever resources are available to you. My warning is don't copy and paste, because I will know that you're copying and pasting. By this point, I know how most of you write. The whole idea is for you to apply what we've discussed and talked about and what you've read or listened to or watched. And that's what how the midterm is constructed. So you can take it whenever you want, all week. You could take it on Monday at 2 a.m. if you want to get it done. Or you could take it on Sunday at the very last minute. Don't start it past 10 p.m. though, because it'll just give you less time to do it. But you have all week to take it. And don't take the week off. Like I said, use that time wisely. If you're missing any assignments, go backwards and get those things done. If you got a bad grade on something and there's an opportunity to resubmit, do that. Every little bit counts. Every little bit helps, okay? You could work on your LinkedIn page if you don't have one so you can get extra credit. So use your time wisely, and I will encourage you to do that this week.
And then I have one more question, sorry. So it's going to be roughly around like 5 points each for each question?
Nope.
Oh, is it just one?
There's 20 to 25 questions. You're going to have a handful of them that are going to be 2, 4, 5 points each. And then you're going to have bigger questions, which are 10, 20 towards the end. So, you know, there's some questions that are going to be worth a whole lot more. And those are the ones that are the bigger essay questions, or maybe some of the math questions if you're calculating CPM, for instance.
And then are you looking for a certain amount of response, or is it just like as much as we want or we think is appropriate?
I will give you very specific expectations in terms of minimums and maximums, in terms of words, in terms of the CPM question that you will have. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to have a CPM question. I'm looking for the right answer, and you're going to show your work just in case you don't get it exactly. so that I can give you partial credit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But it, just to be very clear, yes, it's 100% on Canvas, Matt. Sorry to hear that, Matt. Matt just got yelled at. Sucks. It's all on Canvas. All the questions are on Canvas. You'll take the whole thing on Canvas. So, like I said, the first part of the midterm is going to be short answer, true, false-ish type questions, low point value. And then as you get towards the end, it's going to be bigger questions worth more points, which means that you're going to have to do more work for it. So the biggest, I think, will be a 20-point question essay, and you're going to have to write a lot. Or you don't have to write a lot. You just have to write enough to answer the question. If you try to earn 20 points by writing 2 sentences, you're kidding yourself. You need to answer the question, and I'm going to be very specific about what I'm looking for. I might say something like, give me 5 examples of XYZ. And if you don't give me 5 examples, you're not going to get the full point total. And there will be a bonus at the end, so you can get a little bit extra points on the midterm. Okay. Any other questions? Clarity, curiosity? Everybody good? Before we close, well, we're almost at time. How are we doing this week? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs down. To the side, Jordan, side, Aaron, up, up, sideways, Gabriella, sorry. Josh, Atia, sideways. Grace isn't sure, sideways. Did your coach talk way too much, Grace? Okay, good. Well, again, if you're having issues and if I can help, please let me know. I'm helping a couple students with some different things, and I'm glad to do it. So, and I may actually be teaching some of your professors right now. I'm teaching one of the online pedagogy courses we just started on Monday. So maybe that'll come back to you in a good way, hopefully. All right, everyone. It's 7:45. Sorry I couldn't let you out a little bit earlier, but it is time for you to go and look for that activity that I'm going to send you very shortly, as well as publishing the study guide. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.
Bye, Professor.
Bye, Professor.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Good one.
Bye, everybody.